episode of Get Sharp. I'm Joe Fortenbaugh. Our main man, Chuck Esposito from the Venetian in the Palazzo, is here with us today, Friday afternoon, the beautiful Lagasse Stadium. Sportsbook, we're breaking it down today. Key game, AFC North. We're going to jump right into it. 6-3 Cincinnati, traveling to 6-3 Baltimore. Now, both teams coming off losses. Cincinnati played a real tough game, lost 24-17 at home to the Steelers last week. No shame in that. Baltimore, on the other hand, goes all the way to the Pacific Northwest. Another trap game they fall into. We saw it with Jacksonville and Tennessee. They lose to the Seahawks 22-17. Baltimore opens as a big favorite around 9, comes down to around 7. Your first thoughts when looking at this game? The Ravens 4-0 at home this year, only giving up 16.3 points a game. How do the Bengals contend with that?
Well, this Baltimore team's a Jekyll and Hyde team. You don't know what Baltimore team you're going to get. If the Bengals were below 500, I'd love them this week because the Ravens struggle with bad teams. And as you said, they're 4-1 against teams with above 500 record. If they're at home, it looks like Ray Lewis is going to miss this game, though, which is a huge loss. He is their defensive leader. I think it's going to be tough for Cincy. They really had a tough game against Pittsburgh. They played Baltimore. They played Pittsburgh again in 2 weeks and finished with Baltimore. They have a couple of easy games in there, Frisco, Arizona, and Cleveland.
Yeah.
But these 4 games against Baltimore and Pittsburgh are going to be the telltale sign is if Cincy's a wild card team or not. I think they have their hands full against a Baltimore team coming off that loss against the Seahawks.
Bengals have done an excellent job this year. Quarterback Andy Dalton, a candidate for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's played outstanding. But A.J. Green's going to come into this at less than 100% if he plays.
I'm not sure he even comes into this game, Joe. And I think that's a big loss if they don't have Green. And you look at the Bengals; they're not going to be able to run. Benson has not produced this year. Scott isn't that game breaker they thought that he was. So if they can't run, I think it's a long day for Dalton. It wouldn't surprise me to see this number start to creep back up by kickoff.
So you think the public will be jumping on the Ravens despite the loss in Seattle last week?
I do. I mean, the public, they remember the last thing, but both teams come off a loss. And since he's never been that public team, Baltimore has. I know you and I have talked about it in the past. I thought they were the best team in the AFC 3 weeks ago. I still think they can win the AFC, but they're a team that can't play to the level of their opponent. They have to come to play every week, but it is going to be a huge loss without Ray Lewis.
Let's talk about Joe Flacco. Big number to try to cover this week, but outside of that, only 3 touchdown passes in his last 6 games. In his 4th year, obviously a guy like Flacco, a guy like Matt Ryan, 3rd-year quarterback Mark Sanchez, who you and I were talking about before the show, these teams are expecting more from them. Is this the type of game where Flacco can step up and take advantage? Because Leon Hall, the star cornerback for the Bengals, out for the season with the Achilles.
That's a big loss, too, without Leon Hall. But I think Flacco has to. I mean, Smith came into that role as that deep threat after Lee Evans got hurt. There's a small chance Lee Evans plays, but they have Bolden. And they have Ray Rice, who only touched the ball, I think, 7 or 8 times last week. You have to get Rice the ball. You've got a game plan for him. He's a dangerous weapon out of the backfield. He, to me, is like that Marshall Faulk-type back who can take it to the house on any given play. He's got to be more involved, but you're right. Flacco has to step up and be that quarterback. We've seen Matty Ice struggle. We've seen Sanchez struggle. I thought coming into this year that Flacco was the best of the 3. He started off hot. He's cooled off. He needs to pick it up down the stretch.
What do you think in terms of points? This doesn't seem like a shootout. 2 of the better defenses in the league. Baltimore, number 1 against quarterbacks in terms of fantasy production, limits them better than any team in the league. So do you see this being more of a lower scoring defensive struggle, maybe like we saw Thursday night Jets-Broncos, or do you see the points getting lit up a little bit?
Well, you look at the Jets-Broncos, and those 2 offenses are pathetic. I mean, it was tough to watch that game for 58 minutes. It really was. And we could dedicate a whole segment to those 2 teams. But I think these 2 teams, to score, they're going to have to open it up and pass a little bit. So you might see some scoring there. I think this game has the potential to go over, absolutely.
Without A.J. Green, do you think the Bengals can go in and win this game, or do you think this might be too much to overcome, especially on the road?
They're going to have to throw a lot. I look for Dalton to have one of his highest throw totals or passing totals of the year because with Benson and Scott, they're not going to be able to run. They're going to have to open it up. And I think Flacco's going to do the same thing, so I think that bodes well for the total.
He's Chuck Esposito, the man with the master plan from the Venetian and the Palazzo. We're here at Lagasse Stadium. We'll be back not only for Monday night, the Patriots-Chiefs preview, but we're also going to be checking out another game. Stay tuned for that.